What's up, losers? KD3 here. Persona 5 Tactica released on all platforms recently. Unfortunately, it looks like Persona 5 Tactica did not meet our personal sales expectations. As a matter of fact, it's one of the lowest selling Persona games in its opening week, beating only the PS4 port of Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. Alright, so as you can see here, we have the week 1 and lifetime sales of the Persona spin-off games ranked. So as you can see, Persona Q's number 1. It's really easy to explain why this is number 1. It's because the 3DS has a massive install base, probably the biggest along with the PS2. And this was a crossover fan service game, which fans have received before with Persona 4 Arena, but we still love our crossover games. So of course that did well. Persona 5 Scramble, flashy Muso game, perfect for the Persona 5 audience. Persona 4 Arena, flashing looking really cool fighting game with accessible controls. Of course it was going to do well. Persona 4 Dancing, Hatsune Miku guest character, very well put together. Of course it was going to do well. Persona 4 Ultimax, sequel to Arena, of course people were excited. Persona Q2, of course it did well. Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight, Persona 3 Dancing in Moonlight. And then we have the Switch version of Persona 5 Tactica, which has the most sales. Then the PS5 version. And then under Ultimax, we have the PS4 version. So if you combine these, the game as a whole would be higher up. But these are the individual sales for each platform. So this would total, around 50K. So I think for a tactical RPG, that's not that bad because that genre is like super niche, so it's not too bad. I'm not gonna lie though, I am pretty mind blown with how low this game sold, with like how cool the game is as someone that's played it. I didn't think it would sell this low. Like, I'm sure this is fine for Atlus because I'm pretty sure with the art style, it wasn't that expensive to make. So hopefully this is a dub for them. I want to talk to you guys about all the possible reasons this could have happened, so let's get into it. Let's get the most obvious reason out of the way first. This game released on Game Pass day 1. That's how I got it. If it wasn't on Game Pass, I probably would have gotten the game at a later date. There's so many games coming out in the next few months that I'm really looking forward to, and this is one that wasn't really on the priority list. Nothing against it, I just really want to play Grand Blue Fantasy Relink and Persona 3 Reload more than anything. If you have a PC or Xbox, make sure you get that 2-week trial for $1. Persona 3 Reload is also going to be on Xbox Game Pass, thank God. I love Persona 3, but I'm not trying to pay almost $80 for it right now. For anyone who didn't know, Persona 5 Tactica released on the same day as a highly anticipated game, the remaster for Super Mario RPG. I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure most people are gonna go with Super Mario RPG if they only have one choice. I personally have not played it myself, but I have played Persona 5, so it was a no-brainer. I know Mario RPG fans have been waiting a very long time, so this game was destined to become an afterthought given the situation. Mario is one of the biggest IPs in gaming, so going up against it isn't a very smart idea. I personally think that announcing Persona 3 Reload and Persona 5 Tactica at the same time could have hurt the game's sales numbers as well, and some people on my community posts seem to agree. A remake of Persona 3 has been something people like myself have been looking forward to for a very long time. The announcement for Persona 5 Tactica was cool, don't get me wrong, but it pales in comparison. The game that changed the trajectory of Atlus's future as a company versus another Persona 5 spin-off. We all know Atlus loves to milk their most iconic IPs into the ground. Speaking of milking, this game's announcement was actually quite controversial. A lot of people took issue with the art style, which I personally had no issue with. I really enjoyed it because it reminded me of panty and stocking, like the video if you're cultured. The primary issue regarding the art style ties into the game's price. This game goes for $60, and after playing and finishing the game myself, I can definitely see the issue with that price tag. I'm glad I got this game when it was available on Game Pass. The game is great and all, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't say it had enough content in it for my intrusive thoughts regarding paying almost $70 for the game to not get the better of me. My issue isn't the art style, I just wanted more content in the game for its asking price of $60. Speaking of content, how can we discuss the controversy surrounding the game without mentioning the horribly anti-consumer Day 1 DLC, Repaint Your Heart? People were furious when this was announced, and for good reason. Day 1 DLC is just content that's been cut from the base game to sell you later, and there's no reason to justify this awful practice. I just don't get how developers have the audacity to just announce that they're taking content out of a game to sell us at launch, and people just nod their head and go, okay. At the end of the day, these anti-consumer practices continue to be an issue because we as gamers have no backbone, and we need to stop enabling practices like this. Before Persona 5 even came out, Atlus decided to release some guidelines regarding content sharing for the game. These guidelines prevented people from recording or streaming past a certain point in the game because they didn't want people to be potentially spoiled on what happens in the game. This was met with immediate backlash, but Atlus did not back down. But they did eventually lift the restrictions. Unfortunately, Atlus decided to revive the restrictions with Persona 5 Tactica, and they decided to announce it a week before launch. What awful timing. The restrictions are a lot stricter this time too. We're not allowed to go past the last save point in the Second Kingdom. Atlus being brave enough to do this again after the backlash they got last time is crazy. Before, I didn't really care because I just wanted to play the game. When Persona drops, I usually just go ghost, so I'm not even gonna see any spoilers. And I feel like people who really don't want to be spoiled will take enough initiative themselves to avoid any. It's the people that don't care that show up and actually watch the content. I just don't think it's necessary for Atlus to try and big brother us. I know some people will be like,
well, you're a content creator now, of course you care now because it affects you.
Yeah, that time you waste yapping at me about being a hypocrite can be used to hit the like button. Get your priorities in order. Mario RPG, Game Pass, Persona 3 Reload, Day 1 DLC, Chibi Artstyle game for $60, content sharing restrictions. It looks like a lot of things either shifted interest away from the game or outright killed the hype for it. But I still haven't mentioned the most common complaint. People are finally getting tired of Persona 5. I get it. We've been dealing with Persona 5 since 2016. Atlus saw the numbers and they couldn't help but milk the game for everything they could get. We got Persona 5 Royal, Persona Q2, Persona 5 Dancing, Persona 5 Strikers, Persona 5 The Phantom X, and the recently released Persona 5 Tactica, of course. The crazy thing is there's still apparently a fighting game in the works, and if that's true, I'm definitely paying full price for it. Persona 4 Arena was how I got into the series. I'd be lying if I said I could relate to the feeling of being tired of Persona 5, but I can't because Persona 5 Royal and Tactica are the only Persona 5 games that I've actually played. I've never really taken an interest in Persona Q because I'm not really a fan of the Etrian Odyssey style. I did not hear any good things about the Persona dancing game, so I avoided that, and I don't really know what kept me away from Persona 5 Strikers, but I will be playing that game soon. Even if I did play all these games, I can't really see myself getting tired of the Phantom Thieves, unless they go overkill with Futaba's cheesy gamer references, but I get it. It's been 7 years, it's time to move on. Not before I get my fighting game though. The gap between Persona 4 and 5 was 8 years, so maybe Persona 6 is right around the corner. Are you guys tired of Persona 5? Definitely sound off with your grievances in the comment section. I'll see you later.
And I'm out. Later, losers.